Hi, Ali, and welcome to Entrepreneurcast. It's such a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to our chat today.
Me too. So, Ali, before we get started with the business side of things, tell us a little bit about who are you outside of your business and what do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
What a great question. Who am I? Do you know that's a question we all ask ourselves, and actually part of what I do is find out how people find themselves. So who am I? Well, I suppose if you put the normal labels on me, I would be a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a daughter. It's a really difficult question to ask, but basically, I'm just a normal everyday person who loves life. I love to walk, I love to play the piano, I love to talk with people, and actually, I'm at my happiest when I'm doing what we're doing now, and that's really just chatting to people. So I could say I'm really curious, or you could say I'm really nosy. I'm not sure which is true, but they both work for me.
Awesome. And Ali, tell us about your business. What is your business all about? And what inspired you to start it?
Oh, well, the short answer to that is what inspired me to start it is because I love to encourage people. Now, don't get me wrong, when I say encourage people, I don't mean just stroking their egos. So one of the things for me that I realized really on in my career, as you change jobs and you have to do new things and you have to learn new things and you create new relationships, is sometimes you just need somebody there behind you to encourage you to be the person that you are becoming, or to learn the things you need to learn. And to be really successful for me is about putting a team around you. So what inspired me was that whole process of working with people and understanding that actually, if you have a great team around you that you can encourage and that encourages you, you get so much more out of life, out of work, out of everything. So that's how my business started. It was about recognizing that little spark in me that when I feel encouraged, I feel good. But more to the point, when I encourage other people, I feel good as well. So it's a sort of win-win situation for me. And that's how my love of personal development came about. And that's actually how my business started, through that love of personal development. I thought, well, if I can develop myself, then I can help other people to develop themselves. So I started learning, all the neurosemantics, the NLP stuff, the productivity, the organization. And I thought, hey, look, I'm okay at this. I can help other people. So that's how it all got started. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Sure.
and it's really amazing because I know, like, I think there are kind of two kinds of people. There is one kind of people is who they will push through no matter what, and whether they have support or not. Like if they don't have support, they kind of get even more driven, and they're like,
Yep.
oh, I'm gonna prove them. And there is
Uh-huh.
another type of person, which is me. If I don't get enough support, and it goes all the way to my childhood. I never was supported with what I wanted to do
Yeah.
with my family until today. My mother still doesn't understand what I do. She doesn't support me with that. She told me, you just the best thing to do is to get a stable job, stable income, and
Yeah.
that was haunting me for years, and it didn't drive me at all. I needed that encouragement. I needed someone to believe and trust in me. And it's really funny because when I got married and when I met my partner in the first place,
Mm.
he is totally different. He even though he's not an entrepreneur, but he always was quite encouraging, and he trusted in me no matter what. And
Yeah.
even if how we are, we have, we entrepreneurs, we have a lot of ideas, a lot of like, and he just took it as it is. He would listen to it, he would try to get involved, and he wouldn't even once say to me, oh, it's better to be stable and have a stable job, or oh, stop doing that nonsense, or whatever it is. He was so supportive, and that drove me to actually work out my whole my funnel, my everything much
Fabulous.
faster. And in a very short space of time, I actually progressed so much further. So I believe what you do, with encouraging people, that's huge, because so many people need that. They need someone to trust in them, to
Yeah.
say that yes, you can do it, and stop listening to anyone else who says you can't, because
Yeah.
that's what sometimes we need to actually drive us and to help us. So yeah,
I think that's a
love it. I just went on there because it's like,
no, I think it's a really, really valid point. And one of the things that actually is key in this whole area of encouragement and support is also having that ability. You know, you're quite right. There are people who literally will drive themselves forward and drive themselves forward. What they don't realise is that sometimes by driving themselves so hard, they're missing out. They're missing out on some of their creativity because they get sort of stuck on a track. And also that they're using up tremendous reserves of energy because they don't have that support, and because they don't have anybody that's going, actually, this is what I'm seeing. Is this really what you mean? Because sometimes we're blind to our own stuff, right? You know, we think we're doing one thing, or we think we're saying one thing, but actually somebody's listening to it and they're not understanding that at all. So just having somebody that can do all that and actually still be there to encourage you at the same time is hugely important. I find it really important in my life, like you know, I blossom more when I know there's somebody that A's got my back, but also that will be honest with me, you know, not in a cruel way, not in a I know better way, but in a way that says, is this really what you mean? Is this really what you want? Do you know what you want? So all those sort of things. It's a fabulous point you brought up.
yeah. So Ali, what would you say your typical day looks like?
Well, I have to be quite disciplined because like you know, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I have bags of ideas, you know, and as I said, I love to encourage people. So with that comes, I'll just write a blog on this, or I'll just do a podcast on this, or I'll just write something, or I'll just update my website. Oh, I've had a great idea for a course. So there's all this butterfly brain going on. So I have to be really structured. So my day starts around 6-7 o'clock. And I get up and I always try and have a quiet time where I literally brain dump. I have a book and I literally brain dump for maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20. I don't stop. I just write. Sometimes it's absolute rubbish. And I mean, it's rubbish. It's all my thoughts tumbling out. It's not something I'm going to use. It's not even something I'm going to write afterwards, but it's something I learned from a book called The Artist's Way, and it's Julia somebody, sorry to her that I don't remember her name, but it's a great way of actually getting everything out so you start your day ready to go. Then I come into the office, and the night before I've always planned out what I'm going to do in the morning. So my plan is really structured, and I have, you know, projects that I'm working on. Maybe I'm writing a course, or maybe I'm doing a coaching call. Like this morning I had a coaching call at 8. So I did an hour's writing on my course. Then I did my coaching call. Then I stopped for breakfast and a chat with the other half, shower, dress, and then away we go again. And that's how my day is structured. I come to the afternoon. My afternoon is my break time. So I might use it for walking. I might use it for doing my personal chores. All the time I'm allowing my brain to just settle down and be creative underneath my conscious brain. You know, we touched on that when we talked the other day. And then maybe 6 to 8 o'clock I'll go again and maybe write a bit of course, or I'll jump on a webinar because I love learning, or I might have another coaching call. So that's typically how my days are structured. I sometimes choose to have my weekend during the week because I'm lucky I can choose when I want to work. So sometimes I'll work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and sometimes I'll have a traditional weekend so I can catch up with family, children, and other people. So there you go. That's my structured days when I'm being good and being structured.
Ali, you know, throughout our entrepreneurial and business journey, we come across a lot of challenges. What would you say was your greatest challenge, and how did you manage to overcome it?
Well, like most early entrepreneurs, and you know, I've been going in business now for this one probably 10, 12 years, something like that. And I still think I'm in startup mode. Really, I'm in startup mode. And I have to keep thinking that because one of my biggest challenges is the whole arena of sales and marketing. I think it's the biggest challenge for many people, when they're starting out. So when they've been established and they've got a client base, then they sometimes sit back and go, You know, it's okay, but it's not okay. The world moves so quickly. So my biggest challenge today, yesterday, and probably tomorrow is always around how do I reach people? How do I talk to people? How do I show them who I am, what I stand for, so that they will know, like, trust me. That's the bottom line for all of us. We don't work with people who, you know, we don't know, we don't like, we don't trust. And specifically what I do when people share such intimate details of their lives, you know, day in, day out. So my challenge, my biggest challenge is always around how do I get to meet the people? Because a lot of my business is internet based, web based, I might be traveling, so I want to be able to talk to them. How do I get across who I am? How do I share that? I think it's a challenge most of us face, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And on the bright side of things,
Yeah.
what would you say was your greatest success?
Well, I would love to have a brilliant story that says I sold X amount of stuff and made X amount of profit and. But, you know, I live in the real world. I live in the real world. So my success comes from the way I work and the people I work with. I don't succeed unless the people I work with succeed, right? Because that's what I do. I don't have a product and I can't say this product does this or I've sold X amount of boxes. So I have to measure my success by what I see with my clients. So when I work, say, with an MD who comes to me and says, oh, I just don't know where I am anymore. My CEO's changed. And I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm frightened that people are going to really get to know that I'm not sure about where the company's going and whatever. And then I see a change in them in 3 to 6 months of working together, and they become this confident person again. They have the confidence, they have the gravitas that they used to have. They know where they're going. They know what legacy they want to leave or where they want to take the company. Then their very success is my success. When they say to me, I don't think we need to meet quite so regularly, or I don't think we need to meet for the next 6 months, 9 months. It's a really strange thing. And I go, I've now succeeded. So if you like, one of my success criteria is how quickly I can get rid of a client. How bizarre is that? So it's a very, very strange business because the whole process is about getting people to where they want to be, to the life they want to live, to the work they want to do, in the quickest possible time, support them for as long as they want, but let them run with it. You know, you don't want to be there holding their hand. They need to be doing it themselves, always being available to them. But, you know, when they go off and go, I can do it on my own now, there's a little bit of, oh, I'm going to miss the chats and the talk and the challenges. But there's an also, oh, you know, that person's actually gone off and doing what they want to do. So my success is always around the role of what others are doing. It's a very strange one, that. Very strange.
Wow. Ali, also throughout our life, you know, through our life journey, business journey, we come across a lot of people who inspire us. So do you have so-called personal heroes, and who inspires you?
Oh, well, I was thinking about this, strangely enough, the other day, because somebody was talking about who they were inspired by. And I thought there are so many people in the world that you can pick on, you know, like the Richard Bransons of the world, and, you know, because they're there. If I'm totally honest, I have a couple of things that inspire me. The first one is people like Nelson Mandela, who, whether you believe in what he did or don't believe in what he did, believe in his politics, don't believe in his politics, for somebody to come out of a situation that he came out of and be so forgiving and be able to pick up life seemingly not carrying any form of grudge against anybody is totally mind-blowing to me. And I think if we could capture just a little part of that ability to let go and to forgive, then that would be truly inspiring in the world. So that's the first sort of person that would, and still does, really inspire me. And the second sort of person is the person that I fall across very often in terms of the internet these days, where you see the most amazing things. I watched something the other day of a young lady who had no arms in some talent show, and she was playing the piano with her feet. And you go, how, not only is how is that possible, but how does she have the ability, the push, the sheer self-determination to do something like that, and to stand up and go, this is who I am, and I will make the most of it. So those sort of people will inspire me so much that actually I will often share that with the people I'm working with, not because it's look what they can do, but to remind that we all have abilities, and we all have abilities we can use, whether they're, you know, successful abilities that people see like the footballer and whatever, or the ability to actually just be really organised or really tidy or really supportive or be a really good cook in your family. All of those have a role and should inspire you. So I get inspiration from all sorts of things. And you said people, I believe, but actually there is a third way for me to get inspiration. And that's purely going outside and taking note of the world around me. I love sunsets, I love sunrises, I love moon rises. I know that sounds dark, but you get the most amazing thing. And somehow it does something truly inspiring in me that I can't put into words. So there you go. They're my 3 ways of getting inspiration, not one.
And where would you say you come up with your best ideas?
Ooh, well, again, you and I have had a little conversation around this. So for me, it's very often when I'm outside in the open, walking or sitting, particularly on a nice sunny day or a windy day. I love windy days, and somehow it brings out, you know, when you're a child and you go out in the autumn and you start kicking the leaves around, and there's that curiosity of what's under the leaves and picking up things and looking, and it's that sort of thing that I get from being outside. So when I'm walking or just looking around, sometimes ideas sort of just pop into my head, so much so that actually on my phone, like many people, you know, I often pick up my phone and do a quick voice recording to remind me so I can let it go, and I'll go back to those. I'll just store them on iTunes or whatever, or transcribe them, and every now and then I go, right, where are all my ideas, where do I want to go next? Or if there's one that keeps popping up, then that's the one I'll probably be working on. But you probably know, as an entrepreneur, you have lots of ideas, and if you try and do them all, I think you crash. I mean, you would just crash and burn. So you've got to let that creativity happen, but you've also got to have a way of parking it, but knowing it's still there, you can get hold of it again and not forget it. And I have been known, when I lived in the Canary Islands, I have been known, we had a favourite restaurant, an Italian restaurant, which used to put paper tablecloths on. And I have been known to scribble all over the tablecloth and then take the tablecloth home. And I had a pile of tablecloths with lots of ideas on as well. So I'm a little bizarre, but I get inspiration and creativity mainly when I'm not expecting it, not when I'm trying to force it. It's always when I'm not expecting it.
Ali, you've been in business for quite a long time. You know.
Is that being polite, saying I'm a little...
What I really am trying to say is you gained a lot of experience and wisdom, you know, out of your business journey. So out of your experience and wisdom that you acquired, could you share with us your 3 top tips and strategies for the listener today to basically, you know, drive the business forward and be more successful?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. So here's the first one for me. I think there is a huge myth around our ability to multitask. So particularly, this is going to sound really sexist, and I apologise if it does, but particularly amongst us ladies and women and young ladies, I think somehow, somewhere in our brains, we think we can multitask a lot better than our counterpart males. And I have to tell you, actually, my belief is none of us are very good at multitasking. I think what we're good at is understanding there's a lot of things to do. And when you are really, really going to be efficient as an entrepreneur, or indeed in any business, One of the things I think is really important is to concentrate on one thing at a time. Now, that doesn't mean you have to spend the whole day doing that one thing, but while you're doing that thing, that's what your attention should be on. That's what your focus should be on. That your very being should be on that one thing. So, for instance, if I chose to read a book, then my attention must be on that book, not checking my phone, not checking my Skype, not checking my emails. So the first thing for me is around do one thing and one thing only. Be clear what it is. Set yourself a time scale so that you don't overrun. If you do overrun, stop at that time and go, do I choose now to do again another 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever? Or do I now park it and go on to my next task? Now, I know that sounds really easy because when you're running your business, you and I both know there's 101 things to do, and it's very easy to think, I'll just stop and do, or I'll just stop and do. But every time we stop and do, we sort of put a break in our brains, right? And so your brain's going, I'm doing that. Right, I've got to stop now. And it's all done in fleeting seconds, but it's got to stop that, start something else. Now imagine that second for a minute. Then you do something else, and maybe your brain takes 2 seconds to catch up. And then you do something else, and your brain takes 3 seconds. So over a period of a day, you're losing so much focus time because your brain's having to stop, start, stop, start. It's so imperceivable, we don't notice it. But we lose a huge amount of time and energy by trying to multitask. Stop one thing at a time, and you'll find you will get lots more done. So that's my first tip. Does that make sense?
Oh, I'm so glad you're saying that because people constantly talk about multitasking, and I've noticed ages ago that I cannot multitask. It's just something, even my husband says, you're not good at multitasking, are you? Because if I do something and he starts talking to me, I just can't listen and maintain conversation at the same time as I do something. I have to stop and listen to that. The only thing that I can do is like as multitask is if I do something where I don't have to engage my brain. So if I have to do constant copy paste, for example, then I can have a movie playing or music or whatever. But like, for example, my mom, whenever she does anything anywhere around the house or whatever, she always has like background noise. There's a movie playing or news or something else, and I could never understand it. If I have a movie playing, I want to sit down and watch it.
Me too.
Otherwise, if I have something going on, I just can't have that background noise because my attention span becomes really terrible, and I just can't get anything done. So a lot of people are like, can't you multitask? And I'm like, no, I can't. And they say women multitask better than men. Sometimes I think, well, I'm not a typical woman then.
No, I think you are. I think the myth is because, when we grow up as children, whoever's looking after it, be it a parent, carer, or whatever, it doesn't matter if you've got one child or two child. The thing is, you have to have eyes in the back of your head, right? Because children are really quick, so they move and things. So as you grow up with multitasking because, unfortunately, to be able to do what you need to do, the attention span has to be split. And to be honest, that's often why young mums find life so difficult and so tiring because suddenly, even though they have been supposedly multitasking, now they're having to really attention stop, and it is tiring, and you can see the energy draining. It's a great example, even if it's exaggerated, of what happens when we multitask. And another one is a classic for me. So I don't multitask in work, right? It just doesn't work for me. In my home life, I might be in the kitchen, say, for instance, and I'm cooking, and my other half might come in and he might want a cup of tea, and maybe I've got something else on the board. So I'm trying to stir, open the cupboard, put the kettle on and whatever. I can guarantee, there'll be slop all over the stove, or the water won't go in the kettle because I'm not actually concentrating on either. It's a great example of what happens when you try to multitask. You still manage to do it, but somehow it's not so good, or it's not quite so efficient, or it gets a bit messy around the edges. I think, it's a difficult one because we live in an age where we're conned into believing, I think, that we should be able to multitask. And I'd go to anybody, do you know what? Just say to somebody, this is what I'm doing now. If you want me, I'll stop. but you need to know I will need to get this time back. I think that's, and companies, if you're ready to become an entrepreneur, but you're still working for a company and you're doing a side hustle, as I call it, to get yourself started, I think one of the biggest things you can do for your company is actually teach them before you go that actually to expect people to multitask it's not healthy, it's not good, and it's certainly not good for the company. They're not getting the best out of their employees. But a lot of people might shout me down on that, and I'll stand corrected if they do.
Awesome. So that was the first tip.
It was.
Let's move to the next one.
So that was do one thing at a time. So the second thing is around being organized. So again, for an entrepreneur, I think more than anybody else, because you are bouncing between so many things at any one time, and you have responsibility for such a lot. You know, when you're in early stages, then you're probably doing everything. And then you have to learn to be able to give stuff away to other people to do, which is quite hard when you're building a business and it's yours and and perhaps you haven't got the funds or you're not sure that somebody can do it as well, or you have the ability to do it and you're going, oh, actually I could do that, but it's going to take me time. So you have this shall I, shan't I job. So to be organized is really key. So I think one of the biggest tips for any entrepreneur is plan your day and plan it before it starts. So don't plan it on the morning, plan it the day before. The last thing you should be doing, I believe, is planning the next day. And when I say planning the next day, I'm not just talking about your entrepreneurial work, your business, I'm talking about your life. So anything that you have to do in that day, be it run the kids to school, make a doctor's appointment, go to the dentist, see your next client, do your accounts, do marketing, that should all be planned in, because it's all that sort of stuff that we forget to plan. So we have this lovely, well, I'm going to do my accounts today and I'm going to do my sales and marketing and I've got a meeting with a client, and then we suddenly think, golly, we have to pick up little Johnny at 6 o'clock and we've got a dentist appointment at 7 this morning because I made it early, and oh golly, I've got my dry cleaning to pick up. And it's just eating into your plan. So you've got to be honest about your time and your planning skills. And always, as entrepreneurs, we always expect we can do far more than we really can. So my heads up tip is plan to do less. And if you find that you have some extra time, which I think is probably unlikely, but if you do, great, you can use it to be creative. And actually, all entrepreneurs need that creative time, and all entrepreneurs need to be kind to themselves and spend a little time just being kind to themselves, doing something they don't usually do. So that's the second tip. Really plan in advance, plan the night before. And by the way, ladies or men, doesn't matter, decide what you're going to wear, how you're going to wear it, get everything ready. It sounds ridiculous, but it makes so much difference to the start of the day and how you go through the rest of your day. So second is plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That sounds good.
Good. So you want one more tip from me, don't you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this one is quite an important one, and it goes back to this whole idea of learning on the go. As we go through life, I think all of us learn both our personal life skills and our business life skills. But on top of that, we have our relationship life skills, our communication, and, just so much to learn and relearn. So my biggest tip for tip 3 is to actually spend some time reviewing and looking at your day. So again, before you plan your next day, as you finish a day, take 5 minutes, literally just 5 minutes. You'll get quicker at it, but take 5 minutes and work out what went well for you, what didn't go well for you, and what's the one thing you can take forward to the next day that will help you become even better. Now, if you can do that for your business, then what I would suggest is you start also doing it for your own life and your lifestyle, because each day we can choose to learn something or improve something or tweak something to make our life run in a way that is more meaningful to us. So my biggest tip really for everything, business, life, entrepreneur, is that third tip is review, take that feedback on board and decide what you're going to do with it. learn from it. This is about you learning from what you're doing, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, not what somebody else is doing. And it's the best way to learn, and it's the best way to get growth quicker.
Amazing.
So there you go. That's the third tip.
And Ali, did you come across any kind of resources that you could also recommend to us? So anything
Sorry,
that...
could you repeat that one? I lost you just for a minute there.
Sure. Did you come across any resources that helped you in your business and life that you could share with us today?
Oh, now there's a really good one. So I think the best resource for me is a book. Actually, it's not my favorite book, and I say that advisedly. And the only reason it's not my favorite book is because I have books I absolutely love. This book I picked up at an airport. You know, airport's a great place for, you know, we all do it. We go away, or we're traveling and we go to the airport and we look at the spines and go, oh, that looks interesting, pull it off, and then we're hooked. So this one was called NLP at Work by Sue Knight, I believe, and it was pre my real, what I call personal development phase, where I really thought, okay, I'm going to do it. And I picked up this book, and it was a real beginner's guide to neuro-linguistic programming, which actually, I have to be honest, is such a, forgive me, inventors of NLP, but it's such a stupid name. I mean, neuro-linguistic programming, I have no idea. You know, most people wouldn't know what on earth it was. And I was fascinated. I thought, what is this NLP stuff? Anyway, for me, this resource, and I call it a resource because it was almost like a beginner's guide to this magic thing of understanding how people communicate and how you can use this to move yourself forward, not to manipulate people, not to create something different in people, but actually use it in yourself in work. So the biggest resource I would suggest anybody has is about what catches your curiosity and what catches your particular eye. You know, we all have checklists, we all have favorite little bits we have, and productivity tips and things like that. But the bottom line is, if you're not ready for it, it's not going to do you any good. So I'm almost back to my sales and marketing, you know, knowing your audience and knowing what they're ready for and all those sort of things. So in terms of resources, I would say if you don't know anything about NLP or anything to do with how the brain and how you communicate, find what I would call an idiot's guide. I'm not suggesting people are idiots, but for me it's about, Charles Osman calls it inhalable content, picking up a book, being able to flick through it and actually get something that's really useful really quickly that you can use. And that's why I say an idiot's guide. I'm not suggesting you go and train or become an NLP specialist or whatever, but go and find out the ways that you communicate. And an intro to NLP will do exactly that. So if nothing else, just learn how that can be useful for yourself. So yeah, I would, and there are plenty of books out there. I would say pick it up if it talks to you, and if you can flick through it and go, that looks interesting and I think I could learn from it quickly, then I would go with it. There's so many, I would hate to actually recommend one particular one, but for me that NLP at Work was the one that did it for me.
And talking of books, I talk to a lot of people who say at some point of life they came across a book that changed their life. Did you have such a book?
It's like that's like asking me how long's a piece of string because I used to have a room which was probably about 20 by 20 feet, and it just was full of bookcases. I had books. I am a real avid book reader, as is my son, and we had this huge library which we used to look at and go, wow, this is wonderful, and we pick books off the shelves and bounce around. So to pick one book, now this is really hard for me because I swing between fiction books and non-fiction books, because also there's some fiction books that have, there's one called The Bones of the Master, which, I can't remember who it's by. It's such a beautiful, beautiful book around a Buddhist monk and an American poet going on a journey to find the Buddhist monk's teacher. And it's just so beautifully written that every now and then I pull it off my shelf and have to read it again. And it's about, it's about this interplay between people and their relationships and how they bounce and learn off each other. And I think that's what I like. But I also have two books that I particularly, in terms of business, that have made a huge difference. They're, again, please forgive me, authors, they're not the deepest books that you can read, but one was The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. And I'll share something with you, which the reason I picked this up was because I'm the sort of person that gets overwhelmed if I have too much choice, right? So we live in a world where there is a huge amount of choice. So imagine what it's like being me in a normal everyday situation. I go into a supermarket and maybe I need to buy some breakfast cereal. So I go to the breakfast cereal aisle and I suddenly realise there's not one aisle, there's 4 aisles, you know, if you count them as half aisles. So I start at the top and I start looking because I really don't know what I look, and I get halfway down the first one. I think there's an awful lot of stuff here. And then I'm walking along and I get to the second one and go, oh, I have no idea what I want. That looks, no, not sure about. Get to the third aisle, I thought I can't cope with this. Too much choice, don't know what to do, and I'm out the door because I get completely overwhelmed. And this whole book is around how today we have so much choice that actually choice is not always a good thing. Sometimes, and entrepreneurs, I'm speaking to you here really, sometimes you're better going, you can have A or B, leaving it at that, rather than going, you can have A and B and C, or you could have A with C and B with D, or you could have A, B, C and D, because by which point you've usually lost people. So that was the first book. And the other one was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And again, this is touching on the whole way we work. You know, the habits we have actually set our life. They set our business. They set our clients. In fact, they set everything about what we do. So when we understand our habits and how to change them, or how to tweak them, or how to stop them, then we have so much more power. And if we can share that with other people and get other people to do things that are good for them, good for our business, good for the world, whatever your thing is, then we will have so much more power. So that book for me, those two books have a huge, huge interpretation for business, for entrepreneurs, for life, and for people in general. They're fabulous books. So yeah, brilliant books. I love books.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Ali. So Ali, you obviously came quite a long way. You figured out what you're good at. You figured out what you enjoy. You managed to monetize it. You managed to run it for this many years, you know, and do what you love. But what is next for you? What's your next big aim, dream, goal? And if there is someone who is listening today and could potentially help you get there, who would it be?
Oh, just a small question. I love your questions. It's like, whoa, this is a big question. Okay, so in terms of my business, what's really interesting for me is, I suppose it mirrors what I'm doing now. You know, I've sort of touched on it. I've reinvented so many times. Partly it goes with the age I am, and that's not being funny. You know, as you grow, so you change. So your brain changes, your body changes, your mind changes, your priorities change, your values, beliefs, everything changes. So in a way, you're reinventing yourself. Even if we don't know it, we're sort of reinventing ourselves all the time. So in terms of my business, what I've been doing is looking at, let me share something with you, because this was really interesting for me, because it leads into where my business is going. I read the other day that 2/3 of all people who have ever lived, I'll repeat that, 2/3 of all the people who have ever lived past the age of 65 in the entire history of the world are alive today, which is amazing. Can you imagine that? 2/3 of people who have ever lived past the age of 65 are still alive in the world today, which means we have an ever-aging population. Also, baby boomers, and if you don't know what a baby boomers is, it's somebody born between the 40s and the mid-60s, give or take a bit. They turn 70 at a rate of 10,000 a day in America. Unbelievable. So you go, why are you telling me all this? Well, because the next generation, Generation X, which is mid-60s to late 70s, early 80s. So they're the people that are coming, you know, late 39, 40, towards 50-ish now. they are also a huge generation. So what are all these people going to do? Because we've worked, for instance, I've worked since I was, I don't know, 19, 20, somewhere around there. So a long, long time. So say, for instance, an average working life is 40, say 20 to 60, maybe 40 years. And if people are living now from 60 to say 70, 80, 90, because the average age is going up all the time, you work for 40 years, oh my goodness, you have 40 years, in quotes, to be retired. What's that all about? That's half your lifetime you're working, and the other half of your lifetime when, sorry everybody of my age, when you're slightly past your best, and I don't mean that rudely, I think your brain is fantastic, but the body has changed a little sometimes, and you have to work a bit harder at keeping everything going. So you suddenly have all these people that are older. What on earth are you going to do with them? And it suddenly dawned on me, this whole reinvention piece was around how do we reinvent ourselves on an ongoing basis, and more to the point, when we reach late 30s, early 40s and onwards, how do we reinvent ourselves so we create a life that is truly meaningful? When we have an early relationship or children or a new business, obviously, you've got meaning, you've got value, you've got self-worth. Suddenly, life can change, be it you suddenly get ill, God forbid that you have an illness, or your partner becomes ill, or you've been made redundant, or your business goes under, or you want to change, you want to do something else, you don't want to be in that career anymore. You know that it's okay, it's okay, it's going along, you're happy-ish, but somewhere deep down you're not living that life that you want to fulfill. And I suddenly thought, I've done this, I've been that person who's had to reinvent, sometimes through my own choosing, sometimes not so much so. And with that reinvention and with the experience I have, I come from it not from a life coaching perspective, but from a holistic perspective of where do you want to go? Where do you really want to go? In this encore life, as I call it, it's not forever. It's maybe for a year, it's maybe for 3 years, maybe it's for 5 years. And then you have to go again and reinvent yourself because your lifestyle changes and everything about you changes, your values changes. And that's where my business is going. It's all around that reinvention process. How do we reinvent ourselves? How do we create that life that will truly fulfill us? And it's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy. Sometimes you know where you want to go, but you don't know how to do it. Sometimes you have no idea where you want to go. And sometimes you know how you got to do it, but you just don't have the ability somehow to do it yourself. And it means making difficult decisions. You have to cut people out of your life. You have to bring people into your life. You sometimes have to downsize. Sometimes you have to upsize. Sometimes you have to move. Sometimes you have to start all over again. Sometimes you have to stop a relationship. Yeah, there's so much involved. Sometimes you have to learn to set your boundaries. Sometimes you have to learn how to be productive. Sometimes you have to learn new software, new ways of doing things. All of this stuff comes together. So most of it I put into programs, online programs. I think that's where my business is going. But most of it is also around finding a group of people that can come in and help my people, my tribe of people who are wanting to reinvent themselves, because I don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. So you need to create that ability, that cooperative of people who will not only help themselves, help other people, but bring in other experts as well. So if there's somebody else out there who has something that would help in that reinvention process, then I would be delighted to hear from them. What are you doing? How are you likely to do it? How could you help in what I'm doing? How could we perhaps work together? So does that answer your question?
Sure, sounds good. But it's always good to find someone who does something similar and work together. So definitely makes sense. And it's really funny because a lot of people, especially when they join entrepreneurship, are kind of a bit scared of competition. Yeah. And I always think, well, we can actually find ways of working together because we never do something totally the same.
No,
we can complement
absolutely.
each other. We might do something sort of the same, but it will be still different. We'll still target different people. We can always work together and maybe even send each other clients. So yeah, definitely sounds great.
I totally agree. Do you know what I really don't understand? And it's going back on that being able to work with people. You know, if you look at accountants, how many accountants are there in the UK alone? I have no idea. They don't have trouble getting clients, and I don't get it, because you know, if somebody wants to work with you, they will work with you. Sometimes you're not the right person for them, but how good is it if you're not the right person, that you can give them to somebody else and go, that is the person for you, and you'll see that person grow, because that's the way we all grow, is by helping other people. I don't get that scarcity, you know, I'm the only one that can do that. Never got it, ever. I just think you just got to look at what's out there already. You know, there's hundreds of accountants, hundreds of lawyers, hundreds of solicitors, hundreds of retail shops. You know, they all have business. They all start. Some go out of business, some don't. It's not because there's lots of them usually. Occasionally it is, but it's usually because the model's changed, or the way people buy change, or what people want change, or you're just not meeting the needs of your particular clients. It's not to do with who else is around very often. But that's another story.
So Ali, we're coming to the end of the show, but before we say our goodbyes, is there anything else you would like to share with us, or advise on something?
Do you know what? It's really hard, because there is so much. There is so much I love to share. There's so much that I could share with you around productivity and the ways to do things, the way you can change from self-doubt to self-belief, you know, all those sorts of things. But the bottom line is, it would probably take too long now. We're wrapping up. So I think one of the things I would say is, because I love to share, if it's possible, then I'd be more than happy to share with your audience again on a particular subject. If they want to hear about something in particular, then you and I could talk about it. I'm always open to suggestions. So all they need to do is contact me or contact you, and then we could organise something. So that would be fantastic. So that would be good. And if I'm honest, and I could just throw that in, if they want to contact me, they can just email me, and I can send you the email, and you can pop that in wherever you pop it in. And there's a Facebook group, so you can pop that in as well. So then they can choose what they find useful.
Awesome. And that's what we were coming to. The very last question was how to find you.
Well, no, actually, this is one little thing I would say, again, because there are so many ways. I don't know you know, here's the thing for me, and it's going back a bit on the question I've just said I can't really answer. So here's the thing for me. You have your email address, you have your website, right? Hopefully you have a website. You've got Facebook. I mean, virtually everybody's on Facebook. You've got Facebook page, you've got Facebook group, you have LinkedIn, you have Skype, you have Twitter, you have Instagram. Yeah, this is just off the top of my head. So if I have anything that I want to share with people, I'd say, don't try and do it all. Just don't, because it's a disaster. You cannot spread yourself that thin. Pick one or two areas. So for me, it's around always an email address, always a website, and Facebook, because a lot of people are using Facebook for business and everything else. Everything else comes as well. Of course, I've got Twitter, of course, I've got LinkedIn and whatever. But because you can't do everything, I think you have to concentrate on one thing. So for me, it's always about the email address, the website, and the Facebook groups. So there you go. That's 2 questions in one.
Okay, brilliant. Well, it's been great to have you on the show, Ali. You know, total delight, great chat, and I really look forward to meeting you in person.
Oh, that would be fabulous. I look forward to that as well. We could, I suspect we would spend a lot of time chatting.
Definitely. Thank you again, Ali, and see you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.